All right, welcome back to the channel. Tulsi Gabbard has decided to speak out on an issue that is very important, and now she's being branded as a member of Q. This is like the Russian collusion hoax. It's like the Ukraine hoax. It's like calling her an Assad toady with Syria. She didn't believe in impeachment because she didn't believe that this rose to that kind of crime, and she thought that the best way to vote was present because she couldn't sign on to something as ludicrous as making stuff up in order to impeach a president. Tulsi Gabbard would have been the solution to the unity problem we have as a country, the divisiveness, the calm voice, somebody who speaks to power and big issues like free speech with both Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. And people, by the way, people on the left and the right, there's an issue that we share in common where we look at that and go, okay, I want whistleblowers. I want people to come forward with information to help save lives. And these two men, and Assange is basically being tortured to death. All right, and I'm hoping that Trump will pardon the guy, but I don't know. It would be smart. He said he liked WikiLeaks in 2016, and then he said who, what, where, and that was a betrayal. If you're a Trump supporter, you've got to be like, what? I was just shocked that he did that, but he's being told, oh no, the guys in the military are gonna get on your case. All of these deep state insiders, whatever you want to. Deep state is so lame because it's just a term now that people throw out there. But these are operatives within our own government who are treasonous people. And Tulsi Gabbard is trying to call them out. And Trump, he did do it, and then he backed away from doing it. So he likes being president more than I think he likes to go against some of these military people. And what's tragic now is that Tulsi Gabbard is being branded as a member of QAnon because she is against child porn. What is going on with the world? What is going? And the people who are concerned about the culture, you're called all kinds of names. You're of a certain age. You have no business talking about these issues. You're completely marginalized by the younger people who have been raised on anything goes. Here's the video game, you watch, you sit there for hours and hours, anything goes. You can go in your little fantasy world, and when you get out, and I'm being very generic here when I'm speaking about this, there's no rooted education happening. There's no life skills training going on in the world. It's all like you've got some knowledge, so maybe when you get out at the end, you can be part of like the AI takeover. You can help run something or just administer or just sit back and just get some UBI. As much as I think UBI is interesting, it's a recipe for more of this. I get this, and then I expect, that. You know what I mean? It's like it's a quid pro quo, to use an expression that was levied against Trump for days and days and days. And the guy's not smart enough to do quid pro quo. He's just not. I said this at the very beginning. He's not smart enough to collude. That whole thing is just a crock. I mean, he became president because Hillary was a disaster, and Trump was actually speaking to working class issues. Now, when it comes to speaking out boldly, Tulsi Gabbard has a history of this. The Queen of Warmongers commentary was one of the greatest tweets I've ever read. And right into the belly of the beast, just calling it out. So that pretty much solidified her place outside of the Democratic establishment. She is a D in name only. She's a Dino, okay, Tulsi Gabbard. And I wish she'd get the hell out of that party. All right. I don't know if she's going to do it. She's living in the days of ask not, like the JFK days. She's living, her embodiment, her belief system is geared toward like a JFK style Democrat, which they don't exist in. I don't know any of them other than Tulsi Gabbard. Now, if she's going to reform the party, it's her against the world. I mean, I'm not saying she'd be better off as a Republican. What I'm saying is she would be better off as an independent, like a real independent. These minor parties, I'm wrestling with this. I know I got friends who are like, hey, I'm glad you're more libertarian and so forth. I'm even wrestling with that again. The reason I'm wrestling is because I just don't see interest. I don't see seriousness in it. It's better than the Green Party, and there are more people who they're more convincing people within that establishment, that party, if you look at libertarians. But libertarian thought, for the most part, on the internet and anywhere, it's absolutely just people destroy it, and they don't even know what it is, because libertarians believe in individual freedom and liberty, and the old adages like pull yourself up by your bootstraps and make something of. I will say this: I'm tired of the whining. I'm tired of the complacency, the apathy, the whining. You don't know what you're talking about, so you have no business being upset about something. If you didn't vote, you shouldn't really be complaining. Those sorts of things. See, Tulsi Gabbard was one of those people who had credibility because she's always worked hard. She's always been involved in causes. But she's seen kind of like the two sides of each coin. Like she could be at Standing Rock, but she would also be somewhere defending your Second Amendment rights, while at the same time maybe saying, hey, maybe we need some background checks, or maybe we need to do something differently. I think Tulsi Gabbard would be for allowing people to come into the country, but she wouldn't be for allowing people to come into the country undocumented. See how that works? I mean, she's really smart, and she doesn't buy into narratives. She's not into propaganda. And on cuties, she stuck her neck out there, whether people care or not. Now, yeah, she's not running again for Congress, but my guess is she's going to be doing something probably even bigger down the road. And I would say once this election is over, it's time to draft Tulsi Gabbard for 2024. It really is. It really is. End the madness. You could have a slogan: end the chaos, end the madness, bring the country back, unify the country, let the United be back in the United States. Stuff like that, Tulsi Gabbard. Independent candidate 2024. That's my vision. Not a libertarian, not a green, just a straight up independent candidate who embodies the best of what America has to offer, both from the left, the right, the center, everywhere across the spectrum. That's the way I see it. Somebody who cares about kids for real, somebody who cares about veterans for real. Now, again, I've covered it a million times on here, but I was very disappointed when she endorsed or supported Joe Biden for president. I really enjoyed the fact that she was completely silent when Kamala Harris was picked. Now, she could have come out and condemned that, but I think under the circumstances, she probably said, I'm just going to, like Switzerland, I'm just remaining neutral. I'm not going to say anything. Her silence on Kamala Harris, I think, speaks volumes. I mean, she took Kamala Harris out, and this is how much Hillary Clinton despises Tulsi Gabbard. And Hillary said, no, she took her out. We're going to bring her back in. Probably the worst candidate you could choose, but it was telegraphed, and none of us sat there and we were like really surprised that Kamala Harris was the pick. We were like, yeah, okay. Because again, they're doing the bean counting. They need an African American. They need this. They need that. They don't need qualifications though, but they need all those things. They could have had a woman of color with Tulsi Gabbard. but they wouldn't go in that direction, which, again, there are a lot of mind-boggling things, but they destroyed her from the first moment she decided to run for president. She made the mistake of stepping down in 2016, and that was really her downfall there. And at that point, it should have been a walking off point to being an independent candidate. But of course, she got re-election, and now she decided that she doesn't want to do this anymore. And that also might be a little bit of a dig at the Democratic Party. I don't know if she runs for something else. Maybe she will run as a Democrat. I think when you run with a letter in front, like an R or a D, you have certain advantages which we cannot discount. In other words, we can't just say, well, you shouldn't be a Democrat, you shouldn't be a Republican. Right now, there's no other infrastructure, and Tulsi Gabbard called it out. And I didn't necessarily agree with what she was saying, because I wanted her to be the infrastructure, and I wanted her to take that on her shoulders. But I think she made a calculation politically. She said, yeah, I might start a little movement that might be good, but it's still not going to overcome the beast. So, this is why her presence in this, as far as making statements, is really important, because she's just storing up political capital. Here's the person that stood up to Netflix. Here's the person who stood up to Hillary. Here's the person who stood up to the military careerists who make these decisions outside the scope of the three branches of government, essentially. They're just doing their own thing. Here's the person who said, hey, when you go to war, you have to declare you're going to war. And what's more important, by the way, than declaring war and doing it, and I'm not saying it's important to declare the war, but if you're going to fight a war, you have to have support from the American people, which means your representatives who represent you should be on board and should be voting on something as extreme, which it is, as going to war. I mean, I'm not a big fan of what Tulsi did with the Trace Act. I understand she's really concerned. Her view on public health is this is a germ, a problem that if we isolate or we put masks on, I don't know. I think we all need to get to herd immunity, or we need to catch this in order to, any epidemiologist, people that you talk to who are smart about infectious diseases, it's a risk that you have to take in order to build your immunity to it. And I think we're doing just the opposite. So I don't agree with Tulsi on the way she's been dealing with coronavirus. I think there's certainly a political motivation, especially if she's running for office in Hawaii, in a state, by the way, that doesn't have a lot of cases. I think what she's probably thinking in Hawaii is we can keep it that way if we do all these different things. Maybe that's true. But again, I would be working on therapeutics. I would be working on a protocol for when people do get very sick, how to keep those people alive rather than just quarantine everybody and restrict freedom and civil liberties. Recently, she's come out and said that some of these solutions that politicians are advocating for are too draconian, and they strip people of civil liberties, and it's making people angry. It's also causing things like suicide and depression. And I think she's aware of all of those things. I think she's always been in tune with those things, especially when it comes to our veterans who sacrifice for this country. When we send them on, a lot of times we send them on fool's errands, but they want to be part of something. They want to serve their country. And again, her philosophy about serving the country is a foreign concept right now to many Americans who dislike the country. And that's why she was having problems being a Democrat. And she'll continue to have problems being a Democrat because the party is leaving her. The party has left her effectively. And she wants to be a JFK-style Democrat. And there's no room anymore in the Democratic Party for that. We're pushing the envelope further and further away from those ideals. And if you want to say further left, I would just say further lunatic. Okay, because the left of the old used to be like sort of the protest against the establishment. Now the left, for the most part, embraces much of the establishment and is far more authoritarian and is heading in a direction that I think is scaring Americans and people who aren't speaking out about violence in various places. I think those people, in a way, just hope it just does burn down and that there is chaos, and that if there's enough chaos, then change will happen and people will be forced into situations that they're not comfortable with, even though they thought they would like the new frontier and so forth, like this new chaotic banana republic style America. People want stability, and Tulsi Gabbard, that's what she represents. She represents a calming. She represents the left and the right, and that's why she's probably the most important political figure in my lifetime. I've said she was the best political candidate, the best presidential candidate in my lifetime. I still believe that. I didn't like the way she went out, but she played the game and she made her peace with it. And we had this pandemic, whatever you want to call it, and she just decided to do something, get away from this and just stop and to play nice with them. But playing nice with them didn't even give her a speaking part at the DNC. Really, just an abomination that they wouldn't even allow her to speak for 5 minutes and talk about her vision for the future. They do not want to elevate her into a place where in 2024 she's a rock star in the DNC. Again, if I were her political advisor, I would say we're going to launch a candidacy the day after the election. And I'm dead serious, because it will take 4 years to start to, like, it's like turning the Titanic. So you got to start the day after. And of course, this election won't be probably decided. According to the Democrats, they're going to contest. If Trump wins, if Trump loses, they say he's not going to go. I guarantee you Trump will leave if he loses. He will leave and say, bye-bye, good luck with that. Because I have sympathy for Trump, because he's not one of them. He may not be what you want specifically, but he's not one of them, which to me endears him. It endears him to me because I know he's not them. Now, you could say he's a lot of things. He is a charlatan. He's this, he's that. And there may be elements of truth to that, but I know he's not part of them. He's a different kind of a charlatan. I think he does bring some populist enzymes to the overall political body of thought. And his tendencies are less war, not more war, for instance. Even if it's just rhetoric, even if he's just yelling at generals and you're thinking, oh, it's all for show. The last person that called this out was Eisenhower. So Eisenhower was correct. Trump will be seen as correct. Tulsi does this too. But Tulsi's got more gravitas. Tulsi could do it because, hey, she's in the military. She's seen how the sausage is being made, and she says, nope. So her calling out this Netflix thing, it's just another check the box. She cares about your children. She cares about culture. She cares about society in general. She understands that real things happen to people where they're kidnapped at a very young age. And it feeds the beast of this sickness. And the fact that she would call it out, to me, shows not only just political courage, but just what a citizen should do, what a good citizen should do. And I am definitely, if you want to say I was off the Tulsi train and just hanging on, even though I've been talking a lot about her, I think she's the best hope for us. I do like Joe Jorgensen for president, but is it going anywhere? And I had a conversation off the record with my friends who were both on board with Joe, and we realized that there's no way Joe Jorgensen's going to be the president of the United States. There's just no way. And that's why I say the day after the election, if you're going to run a campaign for 2024, you start the day after this election. You've got two lame ducks. Think of it that way. You've got Biden's a lame duck because he's not going to serve past one term. Then you got Kamala Harris, which would be a train wreck. And Donald Trump would literally be a lame duck at that point. So you got two lame ducks, and you've got a fresh mother goose who could beat them easily. So Republicans got nothing after Trump because there's nobody who's independent and who wants to go up against the establishment. And the Democrats, you either have hardcore, like Ilhan Omar types who they're kind of scary to me, and that's not what I want. They're not going to function. They're not going to play well with others. They're going to try to draw the country to the left, and the people, the workaday people, the blue collar people who are culturally, drinking beer, playing football, watching football on TV, or whatever the people watching NASCAR. Those people are going to freak out if it gets to that point. And a lot of those people are very well armed individuals. And once they get off the couch, I don't know. At that point, I don't think the country can survive all the turmoil, because you have a well-funded operation on the left that wants to destroy everything. And then if you wake those other people up on the right, that's why you need to bring in a peacemaker, and her name is Tulsi Gabbard. All right. Thanks for watching. Keep subscribing to the channel. Again, after the election, I'm thinking of going full Tulsi, like Tulsi Gabbard 2024. And I will be, again, changing the name of the channel to reflect that. But until then, hang on for dear life, and love your family. Get close to the people that you care about the most, because that's what people should be doing in these times, regardless of how difficult you have it. You need your friends, your family, your faith, if you have one. And that's all I got. See you soon.